Peace to you all. Back again with a new video. We're going to talk about the so-called Moors. It's Moor season. I want you guys to think about it, man. I want you guys to study these Moors because everything points that these Moor Africans, these Moor Africans deceived you with a lot of stuff and hiding your history. Like I told you, they replaced the place of the ancestors that were there. They covered them up and they gave you the face of Africans, of people that don't belong in that land even today. You don't see them there, they don't own nothing there, they don't exist in there. Yeah, you see them in other places around the world claiming they're Moors, but they're not nowhere in that peninsula. They don't own nothing there, they don't own nothing. But they are the creators, supposedly, of the whole world that you have today. How do you explain that? That they created all of that, but ran it in the background and not in the light. I'm gonna read you their own tests that they have on African blah blah. Yeah. And it says, the Moors helped to bring the Renaissance. Yeah, the Moors helped to bring the Renaissance to Europe because of the ancient African knowledge from Kemet that the Moors brought with them as North Africans to Europe. During the time of the Moors ruled Europe from southern France and parts of Spain after Europe had fallen into decline after the fall of the Roman Empire, which is not explained. Okay, they talk about the ancestors that they destroyed, and these Moors are part of that standard. And then they got that so-called Renaissance after the Dark Ages, that they've been cloning these Moors to make them now the new face in the new world, because they had done away with the old world people. The origins of the Moors rule and influence on the Renaissance in Europe began when the Arabs came into Africa around 639 AD, people, as part of a jihad which took over Egypt, Libya, and Maghreb, inhabited by indigenous black peoples that the Romans called Moor. That's when they start the lie. Standard. They start the lie. There was no such thing as the Moors there. Standard. You understand that, people. Yeah, because you're gonna see these Europeans coming up with something else. Hold on. They call them the Visigoths, Visigothic noble cavalrymen. Cavalrymen, yeah. So Visigothic infantry, that's what they show you. That was these same people. How do you explain that? What's going on here? Okay, I got time for that now. Let's continue reading. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the Moors migrated into Europe via the sea under the command of African General Tariq. What? Tariq el-Bin Zayed, who conquered the Visigoth kings. So remember my last video, I told you guys there was this Tariq guy that was a Moor Arab They claim he was an Arab. And now in this section, they tell you that he was under the command of the African general Tariq. You see that? So he was an African now. Do you see that? And they claim, that's why I told you, these Moors are dirt. And Zahid, who conquered the Visigoth kings. So the Moors, coming under the name of Tariq, yeah, was doing damage to the ancestors in Spain. They conquered, they claim that. That's what they're claiming, that they conquered the Visigoth kings. The conquest of the Visigoth kings by the Moors led to the establishment of the rule of the Moors in Europe, an event which will lay the foundations for the Renaissance in Europe. Wow, really? And they tell you that the Visigoths was somebody else. Europe, under the rule of the Moors helped create the Renaissance, people, in Europe, because the Moors ruled Europe in a tolerant manner, see that, and allowed Christianity to thrive, see that? So whatsoever wrote these paradigms, this story, his story, they're telling you that they like the Moors because the Moors was the one that helped them to create this new Europe that you know today, through creating the Renaissance in Europe, because the Moors ruled Europe in the tolerant manner and allowed Christianity to thrive. Furthermore, the African Moors, of course, influenced Europe culture by introducing Europe to the classical sciences translated from Greek, and this was a key aspect of the emergence of the Renaissance in Europe. Do you understand that? That the Moors influenced the European culture? Yeah. And they even introduced these classical sciences to them, translated from Greek. And this was, I told you, the Afro-Greeks. Complex grand architecture erected by the Moors. See that? It's all made up stuff now. Who ruled Europe is also evident of how much influence the Moors had in Europe. Cosmopolitan cities such as Granada, Seville, and Cordoba thrived in Europe under the rule of the Moors. See that? The Moors putting everything together after they claiming they destroyed the Catholic Church, which never been destroyed. It's all a script, you know, the same script. The same people running the same script, but with different narratives. That's all that you see here. They deleted the ancestors that lived in that land and added the Moors, the hybrid niggers that I explained to you. Yeah, came from far land and not from here. And they are Arabs, which means mixed breed. Cosmopolitan cities such as Granada, Seville, and Cordoba thrived in Europe under the rule of the Moors. The Moors ushered the Renaissance in Europe because the Moors preserved, transmitted, and contributed to the ancient knowledge from Egypt that had been acquired and preserved by the Greeks and passed it, this keeps moving, and passed it to the Europeans. Can you believe that? That the Moors passed this knowledge to the Europeans? Ain't that something, people? Your beloved Moors, ain't that something? Your beloved African Moors, that are 1 minute Africans, 1 minute Arabs, next minute they are Greeks, they translated Greek texts and everything and they teach the Europeans the new Renaissance and create them and set them up. Europeans were then able to transition toward the Renaissance because they translated the entire science they received from the Moors, from Arabic, and exported it beyond Spain. The translated text circulated all over Europe, leading eventually to the establishment of such esteemed European centers of learning like Oxford University, whose initial curriculum was distinguished because it relied heavily on the knowledge from the Moor text. You see that? Wow, wow, wow. Ain't that something, people? Ain't that something, people? All the way to Oxford. Them Moors influence all the way to Oxford. You know what that is? Wow. Unbelievable, guys. I don't want to play their videos because, you know, they're going to claim copyrights and all that bullshit in the fucking lying spirits, man. The knowledge of Europeans, the Europeans obtained from the Moors was that enabled the Renaissance period of enlightenment, which was shaped the face of modern Europe, of the world today. See that? They're telling you that these African Moors, Arab Moors, yeah, Phoenicians, put it all together. From a far country, I will send them from a far country. I will bring them from a far country to establish the new order. That's Yahweh. The Moors are invaders from Yahweh. That's what you're going to learn here. The decline of influence of the Moors in Europe. There was no such thing. The Crusades will ultimately lead to the decline of the influence of the Moors in Europe. Okay, let me try to explain this. What they're trying to do now, people, is that they have this Europe that was all transition from old road to the new road, and they had to give you some stories. They had to give you some belief system, and they're claiming you that that transition was done by the Moors, for the most part, that the Moors set up the ground for Renaissance, and then the Europeans that learned from them, learned everything from them, their science, their everything, they learned from the Moors. They got it rolling, and they continue running these countries that, you know, the way that the Moors taught them. But the Moors were a force that is mysterious in all of this. Yeah, they were just the transition. They have to see these are characters. They got you on that this character told you some, you know, a hybrid species that were introduced for the transition. But note, these hybrid species are meant to hide the real owners of these lands. Yeah, so they used the Moors and told you that they are Africans, Arabs, Phoenicians, whatever, they don't belong there. And after they gave them this old stuff, they set it all up, they gave them all, yeah, they teach them how to run and everything. Then they got rid of the Moors. That's what they're telling you. After they didn't need the Moors. So let's continue reading, people. It's all a setup of Yahweh. As a result, Moorish control gradually declined, or, you know, as planned. They claim as a result, no, as planned, the Moorish control gradually declined as Europeans continued to gain a stronghold among the divided Moors. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, the last stronghold of the Moors in Europe was Granada, in the south of Spain, until Cordoba fell, followed by Valencia and Seville. The marriage of Isabella and Ferdinand united Europe under Catholic Spain. Granada, the last city of the Moors, was finally besieged until it finally surrendered. You see the story they gave you? E-story. That's not that. So they used the Moors to do away with the originals. These more Africans came in there, did away with the originals, taught everything to the newcomers, settled them up, created reminiscence, created a new old, did away with old, and then they put them back to sleep. They take them out of history by saying that then they fought the Moors out and took them out. In January 1492, Isabella de Ferdinand took the keys of the palace of Alhambra and ousted the Moorish ruler YHWH Abdul, marking the end of period of the rule of influence of Moors in Europe. Boom. That's how easy it was to get rid of the Moors. Following the conquest of Granada, the Spanish Inquisition began, which led to the religious persecution and ethnic cleansing. Yo! You see that? How they do this shit from the beginning? Ethnic cleansing, making it impossible for Muslims to practice their religion openly in Europe. You see that? So the Moors gave them all this Moorish technology, all these Muslim Moorish translated Greek texts. You know what I'm saying? They learned everything and then they decided to put them back, send them, fight them out, destroy them. And once they got rid of these last Moors down there in Granada, then the religio persecution began, and they began the ethnic cleansing, making it impossible for Muslims to practice their religion openly in Europe. So the Christians claimed the whole Europe after learning from the Moorish Muslim text. How can you explain that? In 1609, there was an official expulsion of the Moors in Europe. Uh-oh. 1609? Will that be I609? That's a little bit. Alright. Most of the Moors that fled Europe found refuge in North and West Africa, people. Ain't that something? That all the ancestors resumed to that, to some Moors that were left, after they gave all this stuff to the newcomers, teach them everything, put them in these palaces, give them religion, teach them all technology, science and everything, and then only to them to become smarter than them and boot them out. And then you got the Moors in Europe found refuge in North and West Africa. It's always the old Africans. You see that? They put these Africans back to their damn Africa. That's what they do. See that? They use them, the colonizer used them to come in, colonize our ancestors, kill them all. Then, when they didn't need these Africans no more, they boot them back to Africa. You see that? And they make the whole Europe a Muslim state, and that's that. By the time these events occurred, according to that history, people, by the time these events occurred, the knowledge brought to Europe by the Moors had already spread throughout Europe. And the seeds of the Renaissance in Europe had already been sown. Renaissance legacy of the Moors rule in Europe. It's all script, people. It's all a script. And the Moors are involved in the script. This is why I told you it's a species of Negroes. They are hybrids. They're not the old ones. They're not the originals that were in Europe. And they tell you that they're not. That's why they put them out all to Africa, because they were all mixed up stuff that they create to do this story, just to do this transition. It's not that, because they took everything. They're not going to tell you what they did to the ancestors and then just took everything. They have to explain to you how they took everything and how they learned how to do everything. So they use this middleman called more African to be this guy that passed them some knowledge about Europe and about science and about everything that they were doing. But they didn't pass everything because, as you see, the Europeans didn't manage to continue building the great buildings and the great stuff that the ancestors were building. So they didn't learn everything. The Moors were like, Asians passing the knowledge that they took from our ancestors. Okay? That's all that you need to know. Sellouts, like you see today, telling you Black Africa. They all same. They all don't exist. These are, Black African is a false ID. It doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody, there's no country called Africa. You know what I'm saying? The European Enlightenment has formed the pillar of the modern world to the advances in science, mathematics, knowledge, and culture. It inspired as a result of African knowledge spread by the Moors in Europe. See that? Proof of the influence of the Moors in the Renaissance is in many of the structures built by the Moors which still exist in Europe today. So all I'm going to tell you, these Africans didn't build these structures. Okay? They're taking, they're attributing it to the Africans because they cannot attribute it to the real niggas that own it. Otherwise, the real niggas are going to come to say that shit is mine. So they always use Africans to cover up. So this motherfucker is in Africa, he's not there no more. They're Africans. And so it's okay to say that Moors, because is there a nation called the Moorish nation in Africa? No. It's just a hybrid nation they created. I told you, it doesn't exist. It's just, a fantasia. Just like the nation of Israel, the Hamites, the Canaanites, all that. The same. The Moors are Hamites, don't forget that. They are part of the YHWH tribe. That's how you know they are not the ancestors. They are not the Negroes that were in Europe before. And they did not build these buildings that they tell you. Some of these buildings and castles were converted to cathedrals, which have become symbols of the European Renaissance. See, that is what I told you. They just converted the ancestors' buildings then, after they got rid of them, into churches and, churches, hotels, whatever, man. Indeed, the most telling tribute to the influence of the Moors on the Renaissance in Europe is the Arabic inscription. Yeah. Indeed, the most telling tribute to the influence of the Moors on the Renaissance in Europe is on the Arabic inscription on the graves of the European conquerors of the Moors, Ferdinand and Isabella. There is no God but Allah. You see that? You see that? These are the Moors for you. The Moors. With that they tell you were Hamites and the biggest influence that the Moors in Renaissance in Europe. I'm going to read again for you to guys to understand that now. Indeed, the most telling tribute to the influence of the Moors on the Renaissance in Europe is the Arabic inscription on the graves of the European conquerors of the Moors, Ferdinand and Isabella. There is no God but Allah. You see that? So you see the Moors being used to inherit the names of these places of the ancestors. That's it. And then the Moors, the greatest thing that they both, they didn't create, listen. People, they did not build any buildings that you see out there, all these glorious buildings. The Moors did not, I don't see how they can have built them at all. And some of all things they did, yeah, they are part of the religious stuff. That's why they tell you there that that was the greatest thing they did. Yeah, Ferdinand and Isabella, there is no God but Allah. That's more stuff. It's not that. So, I think we're done with this site that they have there. I don't want to be playing their videos because they're gonna say, this guy is abusing this. But I'm gonna tell you, man, they lied and lied and lied and gave you a different story of what it was before. And they're all Africans, people. These were not our ancestors there in Europe at all. These were all Africans that were teaching Greek, were teaching Arab, were teaching Muslim, were teaching Allah, And according to their stories, their own stories say that they are Hamites, that all work for Yahweh, all involved in bringing the faraway country personas that they bring and teach them stuff and give them the lands and kill all the ancestors that were there and give all the reference buildings to them and claim that they built this stuff, you know what I'm saying? That's what these Africans do, you see that? You see that? The whole history that told you is all Moors. Built the whole Europe, they tell you. But then they tell you they were Arabs. They got Tariq. He was an Arab in some books. Then he was African in another book. But he was still a Hamite. He was still came from Yahweh and took Spain and killed the kings and took the lands. And when they were all done and dusted, yeah, they got rid of the Moors. It's not that. They told you that they even lie about the people that were there in land before they came and show you some white people, calling them Visigoths. That they were guys that were there before the Moors came up and fought them. And no, it was our people that were there, but they give you so many different versions of the same stuff. Yeah, so that you never catch up. It's not that. It's all a confusion they create. And it all goes down to Yahweh. It all goes down to religion. It all goes down to Canaanites, Israelites, and religion invasion of people that didn't belong here before the reset or nothing. Yeah, and these strange Africans that appear to be all over the place and nowhere to be found. They have no country claiming that they're Moors. Or do they? If they have it, it's in Africa. But they're telling you that they were the ones that built the whole Europe. So how the fuck they going to end up in Africa? Is that how they want the the American Indians to go to Africa so that they can have the kingdom as well there and become like these dudes? Run from Africa. Tell them that every Negro is an African. That's all, man. It's too much lies. Y'all can, study by yourselves, man. But I've already been telling you all about these Moors for a long time. Expose them and expose them and expose them. And showed you that the most of them are involved in this systemic system. You know what I'm saying? Masonry and all types of magic. They're not there to your best interest or nothing. And they part of that crooked out history. So you can't trust them. You can't trust nothing they tell you about religion, their religion and all that. Be careful. These dudes are deep in the deception. You can't trust nothing they tell you because they hidden and covered up the whole European Negroes that existed there before. They don't even talk about them and run out some Moorish history that don't exist. Yeah, these dudes don't exist in Europe and didn't will nothing there, nothing other than religion that they gave and teach other people. They gave their religion to other people and taught them what to do. Yeah, through Yahweh. Yahweh, so they are seed of Yahweh. Okay, whatever you want to call them, Ishmael, whatever you want to call them in the Bible. Okay, they all together and they brought these people from other realms and they gave them these lands and they gave them, teach them the social constructs and everything, and they call it Renaissance, that Moors set it all up and then they put their ass out to Africa, damn African. They send him back to Africa and he got nothing until today. He's run out there running around talking, still out there. They're still out there teaching their stuff and this and that, but they, you know, they are the head on this system. They are just hybrid Negroes. They're not the real ones. So they are part of the machine. They are part of Yahweh machine. They work for Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? They're no different from any other of these. Be careful. The top of these Negroes, and they all work for Yahweh. Yeah, in the religious sector, and the historical sector, the scientific sector. Everything they do is coming from these dudes, and these dudes are taking orders from Yahweh. They're all Africans. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? Yeah, they don't care about no Negro. And I explained to you in my other video how they classify the different Negroes in Africa, about the smart Negroes and dumb Negroes. They call the dumb Negroes and Negroes, and the smart ones are Hamites, which are these dudes that work for Yahweh. Understand that? So these dudes that work for Yahweh, they call progressive. Yeah, and they are the ones that run this system. They have all the agents of this system. They have all the keys and all the gates, and they can be on YouTube making videos. They get millions of views, lying their asses and everything. You know what I'm saying? Nobody touch them. YouTube don't touch them. Why? Because they are part of the machine. It's not that. They're there to deceive you, and they're doing a good job. They got many YouTube channels teaching them. You know what I'm saying? They always talk about we're gonna save our people. You're not their people. These are hybrids. They're not the originals or nothing. They can't take you nowhere, and they have no land that they're gonna tell you it's your land, because they're not gonna tell you, because when they give lands to these strangers and teach them how to live there and keep everything and everything. And most were all nice to Christianity and this and that, as they say, until they put their asses back to Africa. But okay, they got their portions or their deals. You know what I'm saying? They got deals. We're gonna keep that part. We're gonna keep that part. We're gonna rule these Negroes. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So the Moors get a lot of glory and a lot of profit. Understand that? They're not us. They're nothing to do with us. They don't care about us. That's it, man. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Keep the instructions. Don't let them fool you. Peace.